Rain hammered down over the parking lot of Redwood County Hospital, turning the asphalt into a mirror of flashing red and blue lights. A little girl in a yellow raincoat stood near the sliding doors, clutching a worn-out teddy bear to her chest. Her voice cracked as she sobbed, "Those men won't let my mommy in the hospital." Inside those glass doors, chaos filled the corridors, paramedics rushing, gurneys squeaking, and nurses calling out orders. But outside, Amber Hayes could only watch through the stormy blur, her heart splintering as her 7-year-old daughter, Lucy, cried beside her. "Please!" Amber shouted, her voice trembling. "My husband's inside, he was in that motorcycle crash. You can't keep me out." The two security guards at the entrance exchanged uneasy glances. The taller one, Officer Grant, folded his arms. "Ma'am, we've got a lockdown in effect. No one's allowed in or out right now." Amber's hair clung to her cheeks, her hands shaking as she pleaded. "You don't understand, he's hurt bad. I just need to see him." "I'm sorry," the shorter guard said more softly. "There was a gang-related shooting an hour ago. The hospital's on alert. Until it's cleared, nobody gets inside." Amber froze. "A gang? What does that have to do with my husband? He's a mechanic. He's never been in trouble." But the guards didn't budge. Lucy wrapped her arms around her mother's waist and whispered, "Mommy, is Daddy gonna die?" The words broke her. Amber crouched, pulling her daughter close. "No, baby. Daddy's strong. He's gonna make it." But even as she said it, her chest felt hollow. Through the rain-streaked glass, she saw flashes of doctors moving around a gurney. She thought she caught a glimpse of Ryan, her husband of 9 years, his face pale under the hospital lights. The memory of his laugh, the way he'd kissed Lucy goodbye that morning before heading out for a test ride on a customer's Harley, hit her like a knife. He had said, "Be home before dinner." Now she didn't even know if he'd make it through the night. Lightning flashed overhead. The guards turned as the sound of engines began to rumble from the distance, low, powerful, and growing louder by the second. The sound wasn't police cars this time. It was motorcycles. Amber looked up, startled, as a line of bikes emerged through the rain. One by one, they rolled into the hospital lot, 12 men in leather jackets, their headlights cutting through the storm. The guards stiffened instantly. The patches on their jackets were unmistakable, skulls with angel wings, red and white lettering across the back. The Hells Angels. Lucy's small hand tightened around Amber's. "Mommy, are those bad men?" Amber swallowed hard, uncertain herself. I don't know, honey." The riders parked in a neat row, water dripping from their boots as they stepped off their bikes. The one leading them, tall, broad-shouldered, with a gray beard and calm blue eyes, pulled off his helmet and looked around until his gaze landed on Amber. He walked closer, the rain flattening his hair against his neck. "You Amber Hayes?" Amber froze, startled that he knew her name. "Yes, who are you?" "Name's Jack Rivers," the man said quietly. "Your husband fixed my bike last month. Good man. Wouldn't take a dime more than the job was worth." Amber blinked through tears. You knew Ryan?" Jack nodded. "He said if I ever saw you and little Lucy, I'd know the best part of his world." He looked at the guards, his tone hardening. "So why is his wife standing out here while he's dying in there?" Officer Grant stepped forward, hand hovering near his belt. "Sir, you can't be here. This hospital's on lockdown. We don't need trouble." Jack's men fanned out behind him, silent but present. They didn't threaten anyone, they simply stood like a wall. "Trouble's not what we came for," Jack said calmly. "We came because that man in there is one of ours, maybe not by patch, but by brotherhood." Amber looked between them, overwhelmed. "Please, they won't let me in." Jack turned to the guards again. "You really telling me a woman can't see her husband because of something that's got nothing to do with him?" "Sir, it's protocol," the guard replied, his voice firm but nervous. "Until the police clear the situation, nobody enters." Jack stepped closer, rain dripping off his leather jacket. His voice dropped low, steady. "You think we care about protocol when a man's life is on the line? That's her family in there." Before the guard could respond, one of the bikers, a younger man with a cross tattoo on his neck, spoke up. "Boss, my cousin works inside. She's on night shift in the ER. I can call her." Jack nodded. "Do it." Within minutes, a nurse appeared at the entrance, umbrella in hand. She froze the moment she saw who was standing there. "Jack Rivers," she said, half in disbelief. "Evening, Sarah," he said with a faint smirk. "Didn't mean to scare you. We just need a favor." The nurse's gaze softened when she saw Amber and Lucy. "Ryan Hayes?" Amber nodded quickly. "Please, is he okay?" Sarah sighed. "He's in critical condition. He lost a lot of blood, but they're doing everything they can. We're short on O-negative blood, though." Storm delayed the supply truck. Jack glanced back at his men. "Anybody O-negative?" Two hands went up immediately. Jack raised his own. "That makes 3. You've got enough right here." The nurse hesitated. "Jack, you know I can't, hospital policy says." Jack's calm voice cut through the rain. "You said you're short on blood. You're looking at a solution. Don't let him die over paperwork." Amber's eyes filled again. "Please, Sarah. Please let them help." The nurse looked between the desperate mother, the crying child, and the 3 men standing like statues in the storm. After a long moment, she nodded. "Fine. One donor comes with me now. The others stay here." Jack handed his helmet to one of his men and turned back to Amber. "You coming?" Amber blinked. "They won't let me in." "They will now," Jack said simply. "Nobody's keeping a wife from her man tonight." As the sliding doors opened, Lucy's little voice called after her, "Mommy. Tell Daddy I love him." Amber smiled through tears. "I will, baby." Jack and Amber stepped inside, the hospital lights harsh after the storm's darkness. Nurses paused to stare as the tall biker walked beside the drenched woman, both heading toward the ICU. In room 207, the rhythmic beeping of machines filled the silence. Ryan lay pale and still, his chest rising shallowly under the white sheet. Amber's breath hitched. "Oh God. Ryan." Jack looked at the nurse. "Where do you need me?" "Right here," she said quickly, pulling supplies together. "If the match checks, we can start the transfusion right away." Jack rolled up his sleeve without hesitation. "Do it." Amber stared at him, stunned by the calm in his eyes. "You're really doing this, for us?" He smiled faintly. "He fixed what was broken for me. Now it's my turn." Amber pressed her hand to her mouth, overcome by emotion. Outside, the storm began to ease, the thunder fading into a distant hum. And for the first time that night, hope flickered through the pain, carried not by angels with wings, but by men on steel horses. The needle slid into Jack's arm, and crimson began to flow through the tube. He barely blinked. His eyes stayed fixed on Ryan's motionless body, the rhythmic beeping of the monitors the only sound between them. Amber stood nearby, her hands trembling as she clutched the foot of the hospital bed. The nurse watched the blood bag slowly fill and then turned to Amber. "Your husband's lucky," she said quietly. "If this blood works, he has a real chance." Amber nodded, her voice breaking. "Lucky isn't the right word. Blessed, maybe." Jack gave a faint smile. "Nah, I ain't much of a blessing. Just a man who knows what it's like to lose someone before you get to say goodbye." Amber looked at him. "You lost someone too?" He nodded slowly. "My brother. He got hit on a ride one night. I was 5 minutes behind him on the highway. By the time I found him, it was too late. I swore if I ever had a chance to keep another family from feeling that pain, I'd do it. Amber's throat tightened. Then I think God brought you here tonight. Jack shrugged lightly, eyes still on Ryan. Maybe. Or maybe your husband's just got one hell of a guardian watching over him. The nurse began prepping the line to transfer Jack's blood into Ryan. Amber watched every move, her pulse racing. The machine beeped steadily. Ryan looked so fragile, this strong man who had once lifted their daughter high into the air, who fixed everything from broken bikes to broken shelves, now lying still as a ghost. Come on, baby, Amber whispered, gripping his hand. You can't leave us. In the waiting area, Lucy sat quietly with two of the bikers who had stayed behind. One of them, a bearded man named Rooster, handed her a cup of hot chocolate from the vending machine. It's not much, kiddo, but it'll warm you up. She smiled weakly. Thank you. Rooster leaned back in his chair. Your dad's a tough guy. He's gonna pull through. Lucy looked up at him with her big, worried eyes. You think so? Yeah, Rooster said with a grin. Guys like him don't quit. Trust me, I've seen what he's made of. He fixed my Harley once when no one else could. The other biker chuckled. Man works miracles with an engine. Lucy's eyes brightened a little. Daddy always said, everything can run again if you don't give up on it. The bikers exchanged a glance. Rooster smiled. Smart man. That's the kind of thinking the world needs more of. Back in the ICU, the transfusion line clicked into place. The doctor returned and checked the monitors. His pressure's rising, she said, her tone shifting from concern to cautious optimism. It's working. Amber gasped, tears spilling down her cheeks. Oh, thank God. Jack leaned back in his chair, pale but steady. The nurse removed the line from his arm and pressed a cotton pad to the site. He looked exhausted, but relief softened his face. Told you, he murmured. Your man's a fighter. Amber rushed to Ryan's side and kissed his forehead. You hear that, honey? You're coming back to us. For a moment, nothing changed. Then, faintly, Ryan's fingers twitched. Amber froze, her heart stopping in her chest. The doctor leaned forward. Ryan, can you hear me? Ryan's eyelids fluttered, and a small, rough whisper escaped his lips. Amber. Her breath hitched. Yes. I'm here. She grabbed his hand tightly. He struggled to focus, his voice raspy. Lucy, she okay? Amber nodded through tears. She's fine. She's waiting outside with some friends. Ryan blinked, his gaze shifting weakly toward Jack. Who's that? Jack chuckled softly. Just a man your wife found in the rain. Ryan's lips curled into a faint smile before his eyes closed again, this time peacefully. The doctor smiled at Amber. He's going to make it. He just needs rest. Amber turned toward Jack, emotion flooding her voice. You saved him. I don't even know how to thank you. Jack shook his head. Don't. Just live your life. That's thanks enough. The nurse touched his shoulder gently. You should rest too. You lost a lot of blood. Jack gave her a weary grin. Wouldn't be the first time. He stood slowly, gripping the back of the chair for balance. Amber hurried to his side. Let me at least walk you out, she said. They stepped out into the hallway, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. When they reached the waiting area, Lucy jumped up from her chair and ran to her mother. Mommy. Is Daddy okay? Amber bent down and hugged her tight. He's going to be fine, baby. He's just sleeping now. Lucy's eyes flicked to Jack. Did you help my daddy? Jack crouched to her level. A little bit. She smiled shyly. Then you're my hero. Jack laughed softly. I'm nobody's hero, sweetheart. Just did what needed doing. Rooster clapped a hand on his shoulder. Boss, the rain stopped. You ready to ride? Jack nodded, but before he turned away, Amber spoke again. Wait. She reached into her purse and pulled out Ryan's old bandana, the one he always wore when he worked on bikes. She pressed it into Jack's hand. He'd want you to have this. He said anyone who rode with heart was family. Jack looked down at the worn cloth, then back at her. For a moment, emotion flickered in his eyes. You tell him I'll keep it close. Amber smiled through tears. I will. The bikers walked out together into the quiet dawn. The storm had cleared, leaving behind a pale orange sky stretching over the mountains. The road gleamed wet under their boots. One by one, they mounted their bikes. Jack looked back at the hospital, at the woman and child standing by the window inside. He gave a small nod before slipping on his helmet. The engines roared to life, echoing through the empty streets. As they rode off, Lucy pressed her face against the glass, watching the red taillights fade into the distance. Mommy, she said softly, they really were angels. Amber smiled faintly, whispering, yes, baby. They just don't wear wings. She turned back to the ICU where Ryan lay resting, alive and safe. For the first time that night, she let herself breathe. That night became a story people in Redwood would talk about for years. The night a little girl cried in the rain, when strangers on motorcycles showed up not to cause trouble, but to save a man's life. And every time Amber heard that familiar rumble of engines passing down the highway, she'd smile, because she knew that somewhere out there, those men in leather still rode under the same sky, carrying the quiet truth Ryan once said best, everything can run again, if you don't give up on it.